Samsung finally has a Galaxy Watch worthy of the Ultra name with a rugged new design, a big bright screen, and lots of sports modes. So let's put it to the test. This and the Galaxy Watch 7 both have a redesigned bioactive sensor, which is supposed to be more accurate for higher intensity workouts. I'm here at CrewFit to do a spin class, and I'm not gonna lie, kind of scared about how intense this is gonna be. Oh, that was a tough workout. I'm gonna get cleaned up, but then afterwards check the results against the chest strap that I was wearing, the heart rate sensor on the Ultra, and see if those claims hold true. Okay, I've plotted the results from the heart rate readings from the Ultra against the chest strap. By the way, it is not easy to get that data out of Samsung Health, but I managed to do it. And what I've done is I've plotted them against each other on this graph, and I'm actually pretty surprised with the results. They're pretty close, much more close than earlier Galaxy Watches actually. There are a few moments when the Ultra's line, which is blue, and the straps line is purple, when they're kind of like not as close in terms of the spikes in heart rate. And the average heart rate readings are really close too, 138 on the Ultra and 137 on the chest strap. So I think that sensor is definitely doing its job. Both the Ultra and the 7 have a new FTP test, or functional threshold power test, for cycling. However, it only currently works on the outdoor bike workout type, not the indoor bike type. So I'm really hoping that Samsung changes this, because it could be really helpful. It's a 4-minute FTP test as opposed to a 20-minute test or an hour test that you would normally do, which potentially could put a lot less strain on your body. During a workout and also in everyday wear, I definitely do notice the size and the weight of the Ultra more than similarly sized watches from other brands. And my wrist is 152 millimeters for reference, so it will hopefully give you an idea of what it might look like on you. I'm also not a huge fan of the new dynamic lug mechanism on the Ultra, simply because it's not backwards compatible with earlier watch bands. And until more manufacturers start making bands that work with this mechanism, you're really limited to the choices that are on offer, those 3 watch bands that were launched alongside the Ultra. The screen on the Ultra though is amazing. I love that bright 3000 nit display, super easy to see in all situations. And night mode is available on a selection of the Ultra specific watch faces, so it's not on every single watch face that you can put on this, but it is a nice touch. And the quick button is truly helpful. I love that you can now long press it to stop a workout and bring up that end workout page panel really quickly. It can also change function depending on the context that you're in, say like in multi-sport mode, you can long press to switch between activities. And if you're in the flashlight or the stopwatch, for example, you can also use that quick button. So I've just discovered you can play music back through the watch's speaker, even in third-party apps like Spotify. Yes. So we've talked a lot about the Ultra so far, but what about the regular Galaxy Watch 7? It's actually super similar to the Ultra, and honestly, this is the watch that most people probably will get and should get. Let's talk about some of the things that it does have in common with the Ultra. So both of them have that new bioactive sensor, so sensor accuracy should be the same on both. They both have dual frequency GPS using L1 and L5 bands. They both have sleep apnea detection, as well as the new Exynos 3 nanometer processor on board. There's 32 gigabytes of storage inside both, and you can also use the double pinch action. It works exactly the same on both of these watches. The main differences: size, price, battery capacity, and construction. So the Galaxy Watch 7 comes in 2 different sizes, either a 40 or a 44 millimeter option. The Ultra is only one 47 millimeter size. The 7 has a slightly smaller battery capacity on both of those sizes compared to the Ultra, which is at 590 milliampere hours. The Ultra is also made of titanium, whereas the 7s are made from aluminum or aluminium. The Ultra is rated 10 ATM, whereas the 7 is 5 ATM. But really, when it comes to things like sleep tracking and everyday wear, if you have a smaller wrist and you don't have as big of a budget for the Ultra, the 7 is probably going to be the best one to get. Both of these Galaxy watches are the first watches in the US to receive FDA authorization for sleep apnea detection. This is tracking your relative decreases in blood oxygen levels overnight over a 2-night period in order to detect signs of obstructive sleep apnea. If it does detect any signs, you'll get a notification on your phone. Now, to activate this, you have to use the Samsung Health Monitor app. This is one of those features that is exclusive to when you tie the Galaxy watches to a Galaxy phone. Of course, you can use Android with both of these watches, but you'll miss out on things like that Samsung Health Monitor app, ECG, and the sleep apnea features, just to name a few. And blood pressure monitoring is not on the Galaxy watches in the US at least, although it might be available in other countries. These watches have lots of different sleep tracking and energy tracking modes on board, including a sleep score, as well as tracking all of your overnight metrics such as sleep stages and blood oxygen levels and so on overnight, as well as an energy score, which is kind of a nice way to see if you're balancing your body in terms of overall activity and rest and recovery. However, what the Galaxy Watch Ultra specifically lacks when it comes to comparisons against other high-end sports watches, for example, is recovery metrics overall, because if you're a more serious athlete, the energy score and those tools probably aren't enough for you. I'm thinking that's something more like Garmin's training load features, or even the training load feature that's now coming to watchOS 11 with the Apple Watch. And the AGES index, or Advanced Glycation End Products Index, is just confusing. It's supposedly an indicator of metabolic health, and it's going to give you kind of this measure on a graph of either high or low. You will see where you fall somewhere in that, and as long as you wear your watch to sleep. But I honestly have no idea how to interpret this level. Like, is low good? Is high good? Like, it's supposed to tell you like how old you are internally. Am I 85? Am I 25? Who knows? I hope in future editions of the software we'll get some more insight into this, because I am confused. Okay, let's talk battery, because that's one of my favorite things to talk about and to test. So the Galaxy Watch Ultra has the same battery capacity as the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, which was Samsung's previous rugged watch, 590 milliampere hours, but has extra software tweaks, improved battery performance. Yes and kind of no. So Samsung quotes some pretty big numbers when it comes to battery performance, up to 60 hours with the always-on display on for just kind of regular general everyday use, up to 100 hours with power saving mode on, and up to 48 hours with the exercise power saving mode on. So did I get to those numbers? Not quite. So in my kind of everyday use, but doing a few more GPS workouts, maybe 1 or 2 per day, I managed to get, with the always-on display on, about 47 hours of runtime before the battery went completely flat. So not quite at 60. I think I could have got there though if I scaled back on those outdoor workouts. And for the exercise power saving mode, I found that it used about 3% battery per hour, so that was on track to give me about 33 hours of total runtime. With the regular Galaxy Watch 7, this is the smaller 40mm size with the smaller capacity battery. I actually ended up getting between about 34-35 hours of runtime, with probably a little less use in outdoor workouts than I normally would, but I was doing sleep tracking as well, so that was a little bit of an improvement over the Galaxy Watch 6 series. You probably know by now that you can't use reverse wireless charging from a Samsung phone on either of these new watches, thanks to the redesigned bioactive sensor. But as someone thoughtfully pointed out on my last video, you could easily just take the charger with you, plug it into your phone, and it will charge up on that USB-C puck really easily. It's not quite the same, but I guess I'll take it. Both watches are running Wear OS 5 with Samsung's One UI 6 watch on top, and it looks pretty similar to last year's watches and earlier Wear OS watches from Samsung. What I do like though is now that the always-on display lets you just quickly launch an app or whatever from the complication. Just by touching the screen, you no longer have to wake up the screen and then tap on it to get that app to launch. These watches both have double pinch gestures, so you're able to tap your fingers together to do things like control music playback, as well as answer and hang up calls, and also dismiss alarms. That's not on by default. Make sure to turn it on within the settings. I also love the knock-knock gesture. Just as the name describes, you do the double knock-knock gesture like this. I gotta do it properly. Like this, and it will launch an app or whatever you want of your choosing. I've set mine to launch the flashlight. It's super handy, so I don't need to use the other hand to do that. But yeah, you've got to do it in just the right configuration to get it to work. I still love it. And the new Exynos processor definitely does feel faster, at least anecdotally, than previous watches. However, sometimes there are still a few apps that kind of are a little bit laggy when it comes to launching, and things like the touch bezel sometimes still is not as responsive as I would like. Yeah, I'm still missing that physical rotating bezel. I can come to terms with the fact that we have a touch bezel. I just want it to be even more precise than it is now. So does the Galaxy Watch Ultra truly live up to its name? Well, yes and no. I love that we now have a really robust choice in the world of Android smartwatches, so we don't have to sacrifice things like connectivity for a rugged case and design and accuracy. But it is the Galaxy Watch 7 that I think most people will be buying and probably should buy, because unless you need the biggest, baddest watch, this one can do pretty much everything. And it's cheaper. Thanks so much for watching. I have the full text review. It's linked in the description, and you can let me know any comments or questions that you have. I will see you later.